I'm going to make a celery soup, and this is a really unusual way of making the celery soup. It's kind of old school, but what I love about it is it gives it a really creamy end result. So I've got 50 grams of butter here, and now I need 3 tablespoons of plain flour, and we'll add that directly to our melted butter here. And now, with a whisk, we're going to whisk this in until it starts to come together. And ideally at this stage, we want to cook off that flour so it's not a raw flour taste. It doesn't need long, just about 10 to 20 seconds. And now we can start adding in our milk. Now I've got about 500 millilitres of milk. You add a little bit at the beginning, whisk it in until all of those lumps have disappeared. And then we can add a little bit more. What you don't want to do is add the whole lot together, because if you add the whole lot in at this stage, you're going to get those lumps. So what we're doing here is just adding a little bit, whisk it until it forms a sort of thick paste, just like that. And then we add a little bit more until we've used up all of that milk. Really take your time with this in the early stages to get those lumps out. Now that you've added all that milk, you want to bring this up to the boil. So when it starts to boil, it's going to start to thicken up again. And when it's thick, then it's ready to come off the heat. So I'm going to keep an eye on this and just regularly whisk this so it doesn't stick to the bottom. And in the meantime, we can get on with the celery. That's a really big bouquet of celery, but I promise you, this is going to cook down quite a lot. Now, in the interior of the celery, you've got the celery heart. This is gorgeous. Look at these leaves. They're tender. They're really nice to garnish. So with a knife, we're just going to cut the tops off this and reserve them, put them to the side, even wrap them up in a little bit of paper toweling and put them in the fridge. Just before service, we're going to add them. So leave them over here. And now for the celery, what I want to do is just chop this into about 1 centimetre pieces. So the heart can be chopped all together. Perfect. That's the most tender part of the celery. And for these outer stems, I'm just going to take off the top. These leaves I can get rid of or use them for a stock. And then the base here is a little bit woody, so you just want to rip it and you'll see it gets quite stringy. So we're going to take that off because that's not very nice in the soup. And then we're just going to chop it. So we want to chop all of this celery around the same size. And then in my larger pot over here, I'm just going to sweat it off for about 5 to 10 minutes. Now the bechamel is cooked and I've taken it off the heat, and this has been sweating for about 6 minutes. I'm really ensuring that I don't get any colour whatsoever because I want this soup to stay quite pale in colour. And I love the smell of celery. It's got that really nice, almost herby smell to it, a really nice fresh smell. So let's add now the bechamel. This bechamel hasn't been seasoned, so I will season that with a little bit of salt. And I don't want any speckles of black pepper in this, so I'm changing over to a bit of white pepper here and a little bit of nutmeg. And now this is where it gets kind of strange. This is going into the soup here. So with the celery, so I'm going to pour all of that thick bechamel in there. And now we need some liquid. Now don't forget, there is a little bit of flour in there, so you need quite a lot of liquid so it doesn't dry out. So I've got about 1.5 litres of chicken stock. By all means, you could use vegetable stock, or even water works really nicely with this. So start with 1.5 litres, and then depending on how big the bunch of celery is, you may need a little bit more stock. So stir that in too, so all of it's combined nicely. And that's it. Lid goes on. I'm going to cook this for about 35 to 40 minutes, or until that celery is really tender. And then all we need to do is blitz it. Let's have a little look-see. Smells so good. This is, by all means, a winter soup. So I use a hand blender. This is the easiest way to blitz this. And give this a really good blitz until it's perfectly smooth. And look at that, silky smooth. And what I love about this is I've just done it in one pot. I could put that on the table and you can help yourself to it. Not much to wash up here. And now, just to make it extra creamy, I can't help myself, I'm adding a little bit of cream. It just makes it super silky. So about 50 millilitres, you don't need too much, just a touch. And again, I'll just use my hand blender here just to incorporate that cream. Gorgeous, that is a delightful looking soup. It smells even better. And then you can see how lush this is. We're going to add a few ladlefuls into a bowl here. Oh, yum. And those delicate leaves that we reserved, we can just pick a few of these straight on the top of the soup. And it's not just for a garnish, but I just love the crunch of it. And again, it just really freshens the whole thing up. Also, a little bit of white pepper, just a sprinkle on top. Maybe a pinch of salt if you like. And I'm going to have a taste of this straight away. Oh, that is the ultimate comfort soup right there.